The big meeting room on Nexus Prime was very quiet. Too quiet. The leaders from many different planets sat around a huge table made of black stone. Their faces showed fear. Some had scales, some had fur, and some looked almost like humans, but with strange colors. All of them were scared. Ambassador Coltan was the first to speak. He was 8 feet tall with thick gray skin and 4 arms. His home planet was gone now. Destroyed. He cleared his throat and said, "We all know why we are here. Vexthar the Endless is hunting again." The other leaders moved in their chairs. Some made soft noises of worry. Others just stared at the table. Everyone knew that name. Everyone feared that name. How many planets this time? Asked Ambassador Yelnara. She was from the water world of Aquios. Her blue skin looked pale today. Coltan's 4 arms moved as he pulled up a floating screen. Pictures appeared in the air above the table. Dead worlds. Empty cities. Broken ships floating in space. 7 star systems in the last month, Coltan said. All life gone. All warriors dead. He took their best fighters as trophies. The room became even more quiet. 7 star systems meant billions of lives. Gone. Just like that. Vexthar was not like other hunters. He was old. Very old. Some said he had lived for 3,000 years. Others said he was even older. No one knew for sure. What everyone knew was simple. No one had ever beaten him in a fight. No one had ever escaped him once he started hunting. He was 12 feet tall and covered in black scales that looked like metal. His eyes were red like dying stars. His claws could cut through the strongest armor. His teeth could bite through steel. But the worst part was not his body. The worst part was his mind. He was smart. Very smart. He could think like his prey. He could guess what they would do before they did it. "What does he want?" asked Commander Zexpol from the robot planet. His metal face did not show feelings, but his voice sounded worried. "The same thing he always wants," Coltan said. "To hunt the strongest warriors in the galaxy, to add their skulls to his collection." Everyone knew about Vexthar's ship. It was called the Bone Harvest. The walls were made from the bones of dead kings. The floor was covered with the armor of fallen heroes. In the center of the ship was his trophy room. Thousands of skulls lined the walls. Each skull belonged to someone who had been the strongest warrior on their planet. Now they were just decorations. So who is he hunting now? Asked Ambassador Yelnara. Coltan touched the floating screen. A new picture appeared. A small blue and green planet with 1 moon. "Earth," he said. Some of the leaders had never heard of this planet. Others knew a little bit about it. It was far away from the main space roads. The beings who lived there had just learned how to travel faster than light. They were new to the galaxy. "Humans," said Ambassador Feltar from the Crystal World. "I have read about them. They are mammals. They live for only about 100 years. They have no special powers, no strong armor, no energy weapons. They are very weak." Coltan nodded. "That is what makes this strange. Vexithar usually hunts the strongest warriors. These humans do not seem strong at all." "Maybe he is getting bored," suggested Commander Zexpol. "Maybe he wants an easy hunt." But Ambassador Yelnara shook her head. "Vexthar never does anything without a reason. He must see something in these humans that we do not see." The floating screen showed more pictures of Earth, cities with tall buildings, roads with small moving vehicles, farms with green plants. It looked peaceful. It looked normal. It looked like a place where nothing bad ever happened. "Have we warned them?" asked Feltar. "We tried," Coltan said. "We sent messages to their leaders. We told them about Vexithar. They said thank you and asked if we could help them build better spaceships." Some of the leaders made sounds like laughing, but it was not happy laughing. It was sad laughing. "They do not understand," said Yelnara. "They think this is just another problem they can solve. They do not know that some problems cannot be solved. They can only be survived." Coltan pressed another button. The picture changed to show a place on Earth called Sol. It was a big city with millions of humans. The buildings were tall and covered with bright lights. People walked in. The streets, they looked happy, they looked safe. Vexithar's ship was seen near this place, Colton said. Our spy satellites tracked him. He is already there, already watching them. How long do they have? Asked Commander Zexpol. Vexthar usually watches his prey for 10 days before he starts hunting, Colton said. That was 8 days ago. The room became very quiet again. Everyone was thinking the same thing. In 2 days, the hunt would begin. In 2 days, another planet would start dying. Should we send ships to help them? Asked a small voice from the corner. It was Ambassador Pipqua from the flying world. Her people looked like birds with colorful feathers. All the other leaders looked at her like she had said something crazy. Send ships against Vexthar? Colton said. He has destroyed entire fleets. He has killed space dragons. He has beaten robot armies. What could our ships do? But we have to try, Pipqua said. We cannot just watch another planet die. We can and we will, said Feltar. His crystal body made ringing sounds when he moved. That is how the galaxy works. The strong survive, the weak die. These humans are weak. But they are also new, Yelnara said quietly. They have just joined the galaxy. They do not even know the rules yet. Then they will learn quickly, Colton said, or they will die slowly. The meeting went on for 3 more hours. The leaders talked about sending rescue ships to save some humans. They talked about warning other planets to stay away from Earth. They talked about many things. But they all knew the truth. There was nothing they could do. Vexthar had never lost a hunt. He would not lose this one either. Finally, the meeting ended. The leaders went back to their ships. They would fly home to their planets and wait for the news. In a few days they would get a message. It would be short. It would say, Earth is silent. Another world has fallen to Vexthar the Endless. But far away on Earth, in a small building near Seoul, a man named Park Junho was working in his garden. He was growing new kinds of plants that could grow in bad soil, plants that could feed hungry people. He did not know that the most dangerous hunter in the galaxy was watching him. He did not know that in 2 days his world would change forever. He just kept working with his plants, humming a quiet song, and thinking about tomorrow. Tomorrow, when he would plant new seeds. Tomorrow, when he would water his crops. Tomorrow, when he would try to make the world a little bit better than it was today. He did not know that tomorrow, the hunt would begin. High above Earth, something very big moved through space without making any sound. The ship was huge, bigger than most cities. It was black, like the empty space around it, which is why no one on Earth could see it. This was the Bone Harvest, Vexthar's hunting ship. The ship was not like other ships. Most ships were made of metal and plastic. This ship was made of bones, real bones. The bones of dead kings and warriors from 1,000 different worlds. The walls were white and smooth. The floors were covered with pieces of armor that once protected great heroes. Now they were just decorations under Vexthar's feet. Inside the ship, Vexthar stood in front of a big window. He looked down at the blue and green planet below him. His red eyes moved slowly as he watched. He was not in a hurry. He never was. Hunting was like art to him. It needed time, it needed patience. Vexithar was even more scary to look at than the story said. His black scales were harder than the strongest metal. Each scale was as big as a human hand. His claws were longer than swords. His teeth were sharper than knives. When he breathed, small flames came out of his nose. But the scariest thing about Vexthar was not his body. It was his mind. He had been hunting for 3,000 years. He knew every trick. He knew every way that prey tried to escape. He had seen brave warriors cry like babies. He had seen smart leaders make stupid mistakes. Nothing surprised him anymore, or so he thought. Vexthar touched a button on his control panel. Screens appeared in the air around him. Each screen showed a different part of Earth. cities, farms, oceans, mountains. He watched the humans move around like tiny ants. Weak, he said to himself. His voice sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. Very weak. But then something caught his attention. On one of the screens, he saw humans doing something strange. They were not running away from danger. They were running toward it. The screen showed a big hospital in a city called Busan. There had been an earthquake. Buildings had fallen down. People were hurt. But instead of leaving the dangerous place, humans were coming to help. Doctors and nurses worked without stopping. They did not eat. They did not sleep. They just kept helping. Vexthar leaned closer, to the screen. One doctor interested him most. She was small, even for a human. Her name was Kim Minji. She had been working for 30 hours without rest. Her hands were covered in blood, but they did not shake. Her eyes were tired, but they did not give up. Vexthar watched her save the life of a small child. The child's heart had stopped working. Kim Minji worked for 2 hours to fix it. When the child's heart started beating again, she did not celebrate. She just moved to the next patient. Interesting, Vexthar said. He changed the screen to show another part of Earth. This was a city called Daegu. There was a fire in a big building. People were trapped inside. The fire was very hot and very dangerous. Vexthar watched a man run into the burning building. The man's name was Lee Hyunwoo. He was not a firefighter. He was just a normal person. But he could not watch people die, when he might be able to help them. Lee Hyunwoo went into the building 3 times. Each time he brought out people who could not escape by themselves. Children, old people, sick people. The 4th time he went in, part of the building fell down. Everyone thought he was dead. But then Lee Hyunwoo came out again. He was carrying 2 small children. His clothes were burned. His face was black with smoke. But he was alive, and so were the children. Vexthar made a sound like growling. This was not what he expected to see. Most species tried to save themselves first, but these humans seemed to save others first. He changed the screen again. This time he saw a small island called Jeju. There was a school there, a very poor school. The building was old. The roof had holes in it. There were not enough books or desks, but inside the school a young woman was teaching. Her name was Yoon Sora. She taught children who had come from other countries, children whose families had run away from wars, children who had no money and no home. Yoon Sora could have gotten a job at a rich school in the city. She was smart enough. She was good enough. But she stayed at the poor school. She used her own money to buy food for hungry children. She fixed the roof with her own hands. She made books by hand when there were not enough to buy. Vexthar watched her teach a little boy how to read. The boy was maybe 6 years old. He had come from a country where there was a war. He did not speak the same language as the other children. But Yoon Sora was very patient. She showed him each letter. She helped him make each sound. When he read his first word, she smiled like he had done something amazing. Why? Vexthar asked the empty air around him. Why do they help others when it makes them weaker? Every other species Vexthar had hunted followed the same rule. Take care of yourself first. Be strong. Be safe. Let the weak ones die so the strong ones can live. This was the way of the universe. This was the way of survival. But humans seemed to follow a different rule. They made themselves weaker to make others stronger. They put themselves in danger to keep others safe. They gave away their food to feed hungry strangers. It made no sense. Vexthar decided to look closer. He focused his screens on one human in particular. A man who lived near the city of Seoul. His name was Park Junho. Park Junho was not a doctor like Kim Minji. He was not a hero like Lee Hyunwoo. He was not a teacher like Yoon Sora. He was just a man who grew plants, but Vexthar watched him anyway. There was something about this human that felt different, something that made Vexthar want to understand. Park Junho worked in a big glass building full of plants. He woke up every morning when the sun came up. He watered his plants. He checked their leaves. He wrote notes in a book. He worked until the sun went down. Then he went to his small house and read books until he fell asleep. It seemed boring. It seemed simple, but Vexthar kept watching. Park Junho was not growing normal plants. He was growing plants that could live in bad soil, soil that had been poisoned by wars, soil that was too dry or too wet or too hot. He was trying to make plants that could grow anywhere, plants that could feed people even in the worst places. Why? Vexthar asked again. Why does he work so hard for people he will never meet? Park Junho did not make money from his work. Big companies had offered to buy his new plants. They wanted to make them expensive so only rich people could buy them. But Park Junho always said no. He wanted his plants to be free. He wanted anyone to be able to grow them. Vexthar had never seen anything like this before. In all his thousands of years of hunting, he had never seen a species that worked to help strangers. Every other species was selfish. They cared about their own families, their own tribes, their own planets. But humans seemed to care about everyone. It was confusing. It was strange. And it was making Vexthar feel something he had not felt in a very long time. Curiosity. For 3,000 years, Vexthar had known exactly what would happen when he started hunting. His prey would try to run. They would try to hide. They would try to fight. And they would always lose. It was the same story every time, but these humans might be different. They might surprise him. Vexthar walked to another part of his ship. This was his trophy room. The walls were covered with thousands of skulls. Each skull had belonged to the strongest warrior on a different planet. Kings who could lift mountains, generals who could control lightning, psychic masters who could read minds. All of them had died by Vexthar's claws. In the center of the room was an empty stand. This was where Vexthar would put his next trophy, the skull of the strongest human. But as he looked at the empty stand, Vexthar found himself wondering something new. What if the strongest human was not the one with the biggest muscles? What if the strongest human was not the one with the best weapons? What if the strongest human was someone like Park Junho, someone who fought against hunger and sadness instead of fighting against other people? Vexthar shook his big head. He was thinking too much. Humans were prey, nothing more. In 2 days he would start hunting them. In 2 weeks they would all be dead. That was how it always worked. But as he walked back to his control room, Vexthar made a decision. He would not start with a big attack like usual. He would not destroy their cities from space. He would go down to their planet. He would meet them face to face. He wanted to see these strange humans up close. He wanted to understand them before he killed them. Vexthar looked down at Earth one more time. Somewhere down there, Park Junho was probably still working in his greenhouse, still trying to make the world better with his plants. Soon, Vexthar would meet him. Soon the hunt would begin. The rain was falling hard on the mountains near Seoul. It was late at night. Most people were sleeping in their warm houses. But Park Junho was still working in his greenhouse. He always worked late when it rained. The sound of water on the glass roof helped him think. Park Junho was looking at a small plant. It was green with tiny yellow flowers. This plant was special. It could grow in soil that had been poisoned by chemicals, soil where nothing else could live. If he could make more of these plants, he could help feed people in places where war had made the land sick. He was so focused on his work that he did not hear the big footsteps outside. He did not see the huge shadow moving between the trees. He did not feel the ground shake when something very heavy landed near his greenhouse. Then the lights went out. Park Junho looked up from his plant. The power was off. This happened sometimes, during big storms. He reached for his flashlight, but before he could turn it on, he heard a voice. "Do not be afraid, little human." The voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. It came from right behind him. Park Junho turned around slowly. In the darkness of his greenhouse, 2 red eyes were glowing. They were as big as dinner plates. Below the eyes, Park Junho could see huge white teeth. Above the eyes, he could see something that looked like horns. Park Junho should have been scared. He should have screamed, he should have run away, but he did not do any of these things. Instead, he reached over and turned on his flashlight. The light showed a creature that was like something from a nightmare, 12 feet tall, covered in black scales, claws as long as swords, a face that looked like a dragon mixed with a demon. This was Vexthar the Endless, the most feared hunter in the galaxy. Park Jun-ho looked at the monster for a long moment. Then he said, "Are you here to destroy us?" Vexthar was surprised. Every other creature he had ever met had screamed when they saw him. They begged for their lives. They offered him money or treasure. They promised to serve him forever. But this small human just asked a simple question. "I am Vexthar the Endless," the hunter said. "I have killed gods and emperors. I have destroyed 1,000 worlds. Your species will fall like all the others." Park Jun-ho nodded like he was thinking about this information. "I see," he said. "That sounds very lonely. Would you like some tea? It is cold tonight." Vexithar's red eyes grew even bigger. In 3,000 years of hunting, no prey had ever offered him tea. No prey had ever worried that he might be cold. Most prey could not even speak when they saw him. They were too scared. "You offer me tea?" Vexthar asked. "Yes," Park Jun-ho said. "I always make tea when I have visitors, even unexpected ones." Vexthar did not know what to do. This was not how hunting was supposed to work. The prey was supposed to run, then he was supposed to chase them, then he was supposed to catch them, then he was supposed to kill them. That was the order of things, but this human was not following the order. He was doing something completely different. "You are not afraid," Vexthar said. It was not a question. It was something he was trying to understand. "I am afraid," Park Jun-ho said. "But being afraid does not mean I have to be rude. Please sit down, I will make the tea." Against every instinct he had, Vexithar sat down. He had to be very careful because he was so much bigger than everything in the greenhouse. His claws accidentally cut through a table. His tail knocked over some flower pots. But Park Jun-ho did not seem angry. He just cleaned up the dirt and kept making tea. Park Jun-ho's house was connected to the greenhouse. It was very small and simple. There was a kitchen, a bedroom, and a living room with books on every wall. Park Jun-ho made tea in the kitchen while Vexthar tried to fit through the door. "You will have to make it smaller," Park Jun-ho said, looking at the doorway that Vexthar had broken. "Make what smaller?" Vexthar asked. "The door. If you want to visit again, you will need a bigger door. I will fix it tomorrow." Vexthar stared at the human. "You think I will visit again?" "Maybe," Park Jun-ho said. "Do you have friends?" The question hit Vexthar like a physical blow. Friends? He had never thought about friends. He had servants who were afraid of him. He had enemies who tried to kill him. But friends? People who wanted to spend time with him just because they liked him? "I do not have friends," Vexthar said. "That is sad," Park Jun-ho said. He handed Vexithar a cup of tea. The cup looked tiny in Vexithar's huge claws, but he was very careful not to break it. They sat together in Park Jun-ho's small living room. Vexithar had to bend his neck to fit under the ceiling. Park Jun-ho sat in his normal chair and drank his tea like having a 12-foot monster in his house was the most normal thing in the world. "Tell me about the places you have seen," Park Jun-ho said. "You must have traveled to many worlds." So Vexthar told him. He talked about planets made of crystal where the people sang instead of speaking. He talked about worlds covered in oceans, where cities floated on the waves. He talked about places where the sky was purple and the trees grew upside down. But as he talked, Park Jun-ho asked strange questions. "What did the crystal people build with their songs?" Park Jun-ho asked. Vexthar thought about it. "They built nothing. I destroyed them before they could build anything." "What about the ocean people? Did they make art with the waves?" "I do not know. I killed them too quickly to find out." "And the people with the upside-down trees? Did they grow food in an interesting way?" Vexthar realized something terrible. In all his thousands of years of traveling, he had never learned about the places he visited. He had only learned how to destroy them. He knew how to break things, but he did not know what they had built. He knew how to end lives, but he did not know how those lives had been lived. You have seen so many amazing things, Park Jun-ho said, but you never stayed long enough to understand them. What did you build? What did you create? The question felt like a knife in Vexthar's chest. I am a hunter, he said. I take trophies. I do not create. That is very sad, Park Jun-ho said. Simply. Creating things is what makes life worth living. Even my weeds have a purpose. They break up the hard soil so that new plants can grow. Vexithar looked around Park Jun-ho's small house. Everything in it had been made or grown or built. The books were full of knowledge. The plants were full of life. The teacups were made with care. This tiny human had created more beauty in his small house than Vexthar had seen in most palaces. Why do you do this? Vexthar asked. Why do you grow plants for people you will never meet? Why do you try to heal poisoned soil? Why do you work so hard for nothing? Park Jun-ho was quiet for a moment. He looked out the window at his greenhouse. Because someone has to, he said. There is so much pain in the world, so much hunger, so much sadness. I cannot fix all of it. But I can fix a little bit. And if everyone fixes a little bit, maybe we can fix everything. Vexthar felt something he had never felt before. It was like sadness, but different. It was like being hungry, but not for food. It was like being lost, but not in space. He was lonely. He had been lonely for 3,000 years, but he had never known what to call it. I came here to hunt you, Vexthar said. I know, Park Jun-ho said. I came here to kill the strongest of your species and take their skulls as trophies. I understand, but I do not know who the strongest is anymore. Park Jun-ho set down his teacup. What if we make a deal? He said. Vexthar leaned forward. What kind of deal? You want to hunt the strongest humans, I think that is fair, but first spend time with us. Learn who we are before you decide who we must become. Explain. Park Jun-ho stood up and walked to his bookshelf. He pulled out a photo album and showed it to Vexthar. The pictures showed different people. Kim Min-ji at the hospital, Lee Hyun-woo with his children, Yoon Sora with her students, and himself in his greenhouse. Hunt 5 of us, Park Jun-ho said, but spend one day with each person first. Learn about their lives. See what they create. Understand what they build. Then, if you still want to hunt us, we will not run. We will not hide. We will face you with honor. And if I kill all 5? Vexthar asked. Then humanity dies. Park, Yunyo said simply. You can destroy our whole planet. And if even one of you survives for 7 days, then you leave Earth alone. Forever. Vexithar thought about this. It was not how he usually hunted, but these humans were not usual prey. Maybe they deserved an unusual hunt. Why would you agree to this? Vexthar asked. You could try to run, you could try to hide, you could call for help from other planets. Park Jun-ho smiled. It was a sad smile, but also a brave one. Because running will not solve anything, hiding will not teach you anything, and help from others will not show you who we really are. You believe your species is worth saving? I believe every species is worth saving, Park Jun-ho said. Even hunters, who have forgotten how to do anything but hunt. Vexithar stood up. His head almost touched the ceiling. Very well, little human. I accept your challenge. 5 humans. 5 days of observation, then 7 days of hunting. If any survive, your species lives. If all die, your planet burns. Agreed, Park Jun-ho said. They shook hands. Park Jun-ho's hand was tiny compared to Vexthar's claw, but his grip was firm. The hunt begins tomorrow, Vexthar said. The learning begins tomorrow, Park Jun-ho corrected. The sun came up over Seoul the next morning. Vexthar stood on a tall mountain and watched the city wake up. Millions of humans started their day. They went to work. They took their children to school. They had no idea that the most dangerous hunter in the galaxy was about to begin hunting them. Vexthar felt confident. He had agreed to spend 1 day with each human, but this did not worry him. He had watched thousands of species before hunting them. Watching never changed anything. Prey was prey. These humans would die just like all the others, or so he thought. Day 1. Kim Minji, the Dr. Vexithar's first target, was Kim Minji. She worked at a big hospital in Busan. The hospital was always busy, but today it was busier than usual. A bus had crashed on the highway. Many people were hurt. Vexthar made himself invisible using his ship's technology. He walked into the hospital like a ghost. No one could see him, but he could see everything. He found Kim Minji in the emergency room. She was working on a little boy who had been hurt in the crash. The boy's chest was broken. He could not breathe well. His heart was beating too fast, and then too slow. "Dr. Kim," said a nurse, "there are 15 more patients waiting. Some of them are worse than this one." Kim Minji did not look up from the boy. "This child will die if I stop now. The others can wait 5 more minutes." "But doctor, the man in room 3 might not have 5 minutes." Kim Minji's hands moved very fast as she worked on the boy. "Then get Dr. Park to look at him." "I am not leaving this child." Vexithar watched her work for 6 hours. She did not eat. She did not sit down. She did not even go to the bathroom. She moved from one patient to another like a machine, but she treated each person like they were the most important person in the world. When her shift ended, Kim Minji did not go home. She went to the children's ward. There were sick children there who had no families to visit them. She read them stories. She brought them small toys with her own money. She stayed until they fell asleep. "Why do you do this?" Vexthar asked her. He made himself visible for just a moment. Kim Minji was not scared. She looked tired but not scared. "Do what?" she asked. "Work so hard for people you do not know. Care so much about strangers." Kim Minji thought about this question. "When I was little, I was very sick," she said. "My family had no money for a good doctor. But one doctor helped me anyway. He worked for free. He saved my life. Now I do the same thing." "But these people cannot pay you back," Vexthar said. "They do pay me back," Kim Minji said. "Every time I see a child smile, I am paid. Every time I save a life, I am paid. Every time I help someone feel better, I am paid." Vexthar did not understand this kind of payment, but he could see that Kim Minji was telling the truth. She really did feel happy when she helped people. The next morning, the hunt began. Kim Minji knew Vexthar was coming for her, but she did not run. Instead, she led him through the city. She showed him homeless shelters where she volunteered. She showed him schools where she taught children about health. She showed him old people's homes where she checked on patients for free. "This is what I built," she said as they walked. "Not buildings or monuments. I built hope. I built health. I built a future where fewer people have to suffer." Vexthar caught her on the second day. She was helping an old man who had fallen down. She could have run away, but she stayed to make sure the old man was safe. "What would you be if you were not a hunter?" she asked Vexthar as he stood over her. The question made Vexthar stop. He had never thought about being anything else. Day 3. Lee Hyunwoo, the father Lee Hyunwoo, was coaching his daughter's soccer team when Vexthar found him. The little girls were practicing on a field near their school. They were laughing and running and having fun. When Vexthar appeared, Lee Hyunwoo immediately moved between the monster and the children. "Take me," Lee Hyunwoo said. "But let the children go home to their families." "Run," Vexthar told him. "If you do not run, there is no hunt." "I will run," Lee Hyunwoo said. "But first, let me make sure the children are safe." Lee Hyunwoo did not leave until every child was picked up by their parents. He called each family personally. He waited until the last car drove away. Only then did he start running. But Lee Hyunwoo did not run away from the city. He ran through it. And everywhere he went, he stopped to help people. He helped an old woman carry her groceries. He helped a man change a flat tire. He helped firefighters put out a small fire in an apartment building. "Why do you keep stopping?" Vexthar asked as he chased him. "You could run faster if you only thought about yourself." "What kind of man would I be if I only thought about myself?" Lee Hyunwoo said. "What kind of father would I be? What kind of example would I set for my daughter?" On the 4th day, Vexthar cornered Lee Hyunwoo in an old building. There was an old woman there who could not walk well. Lee Hyunwoo was helping her get to the hospital. "Leave her," Vexithar said. "Save yourself." "No," Lee Hyunwoo said simply. He could have escaped. The window was right there. He could have jumped out and kept running, but he would not leave the old woman behind. Vexthar caught him, but he was thinking about Lee Hyunwoo's question. What kind of man was he? What kind of example was he setting? Day 5. Yoon Sora, the teacher. Yoon Sora was teaching her class when Vexthar arrived at her school on Jeju Island. The children were from many different countries. Some spoke Korean. Some spoke other languages. All of them were poor. When Vexthar appeared in the classroom, the children were scared. But Yoon Sora stepped in front of them. "Children," she said, calmly, "this is a visitor from very far away. He has come to learn about us." One little boy asked, "Is he going to hurt us?" Yoon Sora looked at Vexthar. "Are you going to hurt my students?" "I am here for you, not them," Vexthar said. "Then, no," Yoon Sora told the boy. "He will not hurt you, but you should go home now. Tell your families I said to keep you inside tonight." The children left quickly. When they were gone, Yoon Sora turned to Vexthar. "I know why you are here," she said. "You want to hunt me. But may I finish today's lesson first? We are learning about hope." Vexthar was curious. "What is there to teach about hope?" Yoon Sora showed him a small seed. "This is a pine seed," she said. "It can sleep in the ground for many years, sometimes for 50 years or more. It waits for the right time to grow. Even when everything around it dies, the seed remembers how to live." "What does this have to do with hope?" Vexthar asked. "Hope is like a seed," Yoon Sora said. "It can survive anything. Wars, disasters, sadness, fear. Hope waits, and when the time is right, it grows into something beautiful." The hunt began the next morning. As Vexthar chased her, Yoon Sora did something strange. She left things for him to find. Small gifts, a book of poems, a picture drawn by one of her students, a recording of children singing. "Why do you give me gifts?" Vexthar asked when he found her hiding in the school. "Because you seem lonely," Yoon Sora said. "Everyone deserves to know that someone thinks about them." Vexthar caught her on the 6th day. She was protecting her school during a big storm. The roof was leaking, the windows were broken, but she would not leave. "The children will come back tomorrow," she said. "They need to know their school is still here. They need to know their hope is still alive." Day 7. The final hunt. The last day belonged to Park Junho. He spent the morning in his greenhouse working with his plants just like always. He showed Vexthar his life's work. Plants that could clean poisoned soil. Crops that could grow in the desert. Seeds that carried the hope of feeding a hungry world. "This is what I built," Park Junho said. "Not for money, not for fame. I built a future where no child has to be hungry." When the hunt began, Park Junho did not run far. He led Vexthar to a hill overlooking Seoul. They could see the whole city from there. Millions of lights twinkled like stars. "Beautiful," Park Junho said. "Even in our darkest moments we reach for beauty. We reach for hope. We reach for tomorrow." As the 7th day ended, Vexthar stood over Park Junho in the greenhouse. His claws were raised. One strike would end it all. He had won. All 5 humans were caught. But as he looked down at Park Junho, Vexithar saw something that made him stop. In the rows of growing plants around them, he saw the future being planted. He saw hope being grown from nothing but dirt and dreams. He saw tomorrow being carefully tended by gentle hands. For 3,000 years, Vexithar had collected trophies of the past. But these humans were building gifts for the future. His claws began to shake. For the first time in 3,000 years, Vexthar could not kill. Vexthar stood in the greenhouse with his claws raised above Park Junho. The hunt was over. All 5 humans had been caught. According to their deal, he could now kill them all and destroy the earth. That was what he had always done. That was what hunters did. But his claws would not move. Park Junho lay on the ground looking up at the 12-foot monster standing over him. He was not begging for his life. He was not crying. He was not even afraid anymore. He was just waiting. "Kill me," Park Junho said quietly. "You won the hunt. That was our deal." Vexithar's red eyes looked down at the small human. Around them, the greenhouse was full of growing plants. Green leaves and tiny flowers everywhere. Seeds waiting to become food for hungry people. Hope growing in small pots of dirt. "I cannot," Vexthar whispered. His massive body began to shake. His claws slowly came down to his sides. For 3,000 years he had never failed to kill his prey. For 3,000 years killing had been the only thing he knew how to do. But now, standing in this place full of life and hope, Vexthar felt something breaking inside his chest. It was like a wall that had been built around his heart was falling down piece by piece. "Why?" Park Junho asked, sitting up. "Why can you not kill me?" Vexthar looked at his claws. They had killed gods and emperors. They had ended the lives of the strongest warriors in the galaxy. But they could not hurt this gentle man who spent his days growing food for strangers. "Because you are not prey," Vexthar said. His voice sounded different now. Softer. Sadder. "You are something I have never seen before." "What am I?" Park Junho asked. Vexthar thought about Kim Minji working without rest to save lives. He thought about Lee Hyunwoo risking his own life to protect others. He thought about Yoon Sora teaching hope to children who had lost everything. He thought about Park Junho growing food for people he would never meet. "You are builders," Vexthar said. "All of you. You build hope where there is despair. You build life where there is death. You build futures where there is only darkness." Park Junho stood up slowly. He brushed the dirt off his clothes and looked at the giant hunter. "And what are you, Vexthar?" The question hit him like a punch. What was he? For 3,000 years he had called himself a hunter, the greatest hunter in the galaxy, the apex predator, the endless one. But what had he really been? "I am a destroyer," Vexthar said. The words felt heavy in his mouth. "I have spent 3,000 years destroying what others built. I have taken beauty from the universe and left only emptiness." "That is what you were," Park Junho said. "But what do you want to be?" Vexthar looked around the greenhouse again. Everything here was growing. Everything here was becoming something better than it was before. Small seeds becoming plants. Plants becoming food. Food becoming hope for hungry families. When was the last time Vexthar had made something grow? When was the last time he had built something instead of breaking it? When was the last time he had given life instead of taking it? He could not remember. Maybe he never had. "I do not know how to be anything else," Vexthar said. "I only know how to hunt. I only know how to kill." Park Junho walked over to a table covered with small pots. Each pot had a tiny green plant growing in it. He picked up one pot and held it out to Vexthar. "This is a tomato plant," Park Junho said. "It is very young. In a few months it will give us fruit to eat. But right now it needs someone to take care of it, someone to water it and keep it safe." Vexthar looked at the tiny plant. It was so small and fragile. His claws could destroy it without even trying. "I would kill it," he said. "I'm too big, too clumsy. I destroy everything I touch." "Then learn to be gentle," Park Junho said. "Learn to be careful. Learn to help things grow, instead of helping them die." Vexthar carefully took the pot in his huge claws. The plant looked even smaller in his hands. One wrong move and it would be crushed. But as he held it, something strange happened. He felt protective of it. He wanted it to live. He wanted it to grow. "How?" Vexthar asked. "How do I learn to create instead of destroy?" "The same way everyone learns," Park Junho said. "One day at a time, one plant at a time, one choice at a time." Vexthar stared at the small plant in his hands. Then, very slowly, he began to lower himself to the ground. His massive body folded down until he was kneeling on the greenhouse floor. His head, which had looked down on the deaths of gods, now bowed before a simple human who grew vegetables. "Teach me," Vexthar whispered. His voice was so quiet it was almost lost in the sound of rain on the greenhouse roof. "Teach me how to create." Park Junho smiled. It was the same gentle smile he had when a seed sprouted for the first time. "I will teach you," he said, "but first we need to let the others know they are safe." Vexthar looked up. "The others? Kim Minji, Lee Hyunwoo, and Yoon Sora. They think they are going to die. We should tell them they can go home to their families." Using his ship's technology, Vexithar sent messages to the 3 humans he had caught. The messages were simple. "You are free. The hunt is over. Go home." Within an hour, all 3 of them had come to the greenhouse. They wanted to see what had happened. They wanted to understand why the most feared hunter in the galaxy had let them live. When they arrived, they found Vexthar sitting on the floor, carefully watering a tiny plant, while Park Junho showed him how to be gentle. "This is impossible," Kim Minji said. "Hunters do not learn to garden." "Everyone can learn to create," Park Junho said, "even apex hunters." Over the next few days, news of what happened spread across the galaxy. The Galactic Council could not believe it. Spy satellites showed pictures of Vexthar's ship, the Bone Harvest, landing peacefully on Earth. The ship that had brought death to 1,000 worlds was now bringing its owner to learn about life. Other hunters heard the news. Predators who had terrorized the cosmos for centuries began to wonder if there was another way to live. Some of them came to Earth, not to conquer, but to learn. They wanted to understand what had changed the most feared hunter in the galaxy. Park Junho welcomed them all. His small greenhouse became a school, a place where destroyers learned to become builders, a place where hunters learned to become gardeners. Vexthar was his first student, but not his last. 5 years later, the ship that was once called the Bone Harvest now had a new name: the Seed Carrier. Vexthar had rebuilt it completely. Where once there were walls made of bones, now there were growing chambers full of plants. Where once there was a trophy room full of skulls, now there was a laboratory where Vexthar developed new ways to help planets heal from war. Vexthar traveled from world to world, but not to hunt anymore. He taught former victims of his hunts how to grow food in soil that had been poisoned by battle. He helped rebuild farms on planets he had once destroyed. He planted forests where he had once burned cities. The universe had not become peaceful overnight. Wars still happened. People still fought. But something had changed. There was hope now. There was the knowledge that even the most violent hearts could learn to be gentle. On Earth, Park Junho continued his work in his greenhouse, but now he was not alone. Students came from across the galaxy to learn from him. Not just former hunters, but anyone who wanted to learn how to help things grow. The greenhouse had to be expanded many times. It was now big enough for creatures of all sizes. There were special sections for beings who breathed different kinds of air. There were pools for water-dwelling students. There were heated areas for cold-blooded visitors. But the most important part of the greenhouse stayed the same. It was the small section where Park Junho kept his first plants, the tomatoes and peppers and beans that had taught the galaxy's most feared predator how to be gentle. And sometimes late at night when it was raining, Vexthar would come back to that spot. He would kneel down again, just like he had on the night everything changed. He would water the plants and remember the moment when he learned that the greatest strength was not in taking life, but in helping it grow. The story spread across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. It was told in 1,000 different languages, on 1,000,000 different worlds. The story of how humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology or their armies, but their stubborn, beautiful, impossible belief that anyone could become better than they were. And at the heart of every version of the story was the same moment. The moment when the universe's apex hunter knelt before a human gardener and asked to learn how to plant hope, instead of harvesting death. The universe was a little bit brighter after that day, and it kept getting brighter, one seed at a time.